Hi, you guys.
Hi there.
How you doing? You having a good time so far at the event?
Yeah.
Learning a lot? Okay, good. So thank you so much for coming to this presentation. I am Pamela Morgan, and I am a lawyer, but I'm the good kind, which basically means that I believe in open source, and I believe in community and sharing resources and building upon others' work as well. And so you'll see something here before I get into the presentation that you don't see in many presentations today, and that is this little square. Does anyone know what this square is?
Creative Commons.
Yes, Creative Commons, bingo! So this entire presentation is under a Creative Commons license. It's Creative Commons by, which means you have to give me credit, and share alike, which means you can use any part of this presentation, any of the slides, whatever you like. All you have to do is give me attribution, and you have to share it back with the community. So you can take this and create a bigger presentation on your own, you can create a course, you can create all sorts of different things. And as long as you share it with the rest of the community, you don't have to ask me for a license. There's nothing special that you need to do. You can find me at Empowered Law or on crypto Twitter at Pamela JD. And this presentation that I'm giving today is about the cryptocurrency security standard. And if you want to know more about that, you can find that information here, as well as cryptoconsortium.org. All right, let's get started. That's my photo. I kind of don't look like that anymore, do I? Do I? I don't know. I always want to like move that little hair away too. Anyway, so I am so fortunate. I have been working full-time in Bitcoin and open blockchain since early 2014. I heard about Bitcoin when I was speaking at a conference, and I was immediately engaged with the idea of changing systems and changing the way that systems work and making sure that they serve people. And so I studied Bitcoin for about 2 months, and then I quit my full-time job and decided I was going to make a career for myself in Bitcoin, and I've done that, and I'm very grateful. So I'm super happy to be here with you today. I do lots of different things. One of the things that I do is I'm on the board of directors for the Cryptocurrency Certification Consortium, and that's who I'm speaking, that's the CCSS that I'm talking about today. But I'm also an advisor for the Big Gift Foundation. I've also founded a couple of companies in the industry. I've also written a book, and I specialize in inheritance planning for cryptocurrencies. So to answer the question, what happens to your Bitcoin or Ether or CryptoKitty if something happens to you? And how can we make sure that your family can inherit your cryptocurrencies but not give them the keys today? And also not trust a third party. But that's not what I'm here to talk to you about today. Today I'm here to talk to you about the CCSS, and I think it's absolutely applicable for this audience because there are so many people in this audience that are building institutional systems, that are building giant organizations or that work within bigger organizations. And it's really, really important that you know that this standard exists and that you try to build your systems to that. So the cryptocurrency security standard is simply a supplemental standard in addition to standards like ISO or standards like NIST to make sure that people are building their cryptocurrency systems in the safest way possible. Who should be using the CCSS? Any organization who is holding cryptocurrency or who is building cryptocurrency services should definitely be using this. Also, this applies to crypto assets as well. So even if it's not a cryptocurrency per se, you should also be looking at these standards and saying, hey, what might apply to the thing that I'm building? The reason that you want to do this is because these standards are designed to make sure that your assets that are on the blockchain are actually secured in a way that is best practice, that is industry best practices. So what is the CCSS? I'm not going to go through, there are 10 basic levels, and I'm not going to go through every single one of them because I used to be a college professor. And when I used to teach college, I would always be aware of like when lunchtime was. And as you guys probably know, lunchtime is in about 10 minutes. And so if I were to go through every one of these, we would miss it. If I end 2 minutes early, we can best all of the other people and get in line first, right? So I'm only going to go through a few of these. All of these standards, as I showed you earlier, are available on GitHub. They are free, you can access them, you can actually even do a pull request and make recommendations for changes. So I'm just gonna go over a few of the areas with you. As you can see, there are things like, how do you generate the keys? How do you store the keys? How do you have a key compromise policy? And we're going to talk about that very, very briefly. But what's great about this is consumers can look at your product or your blockchain or your wallet and say, oh, you've built to the CCS level 1. Oh, you've built to the CCS level 2 or level 3. And that means something. It means that you've actually looked at these standards and have built your systems to meet the basic levels of security in our industry. And we all know that there have been many companies that have failed to do that, right? How many of you are familiar with Quadriga? Quadriga, yes. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Quadriga was an exchange in Canada, and unfortunately their CEO died. And unfortunately, it was a custodial exchange, and they cannot find the keys. And they can't find the keys to access any of their customers' cryptocurrencies. And so there's about $150 million of client funds that are now locked, because they did not follow the CCSS. And had they built to CCS standards, they would not have lost the funds. So it's really, really important that you guys are doing this, and hopefully as the standard permeates throughout the industry, you as consumers will demand and say, no, I'm not using your product unless you actually show me what level you've been certified to, because I don't know what you're doing with my money. So let's start talking about key and seed generation. One of the things that I see a lot in this industry is a carryover from security in big companies, where you have an IT person who gives out all the credentials. How many of you have experience with that, where you've worked somewhere and they just give you the credentials? Yeah, and so that's generally how it works. But in cryptocurrency, that's a no-go. Why? Because if one person generates all of the keys, you can't unknow a secret, which means that one person is a single point of failure. So in our systems, it's very important that operators are generating their own keys. They didn't get it from anyone else. They didn't have someone give them the keys. Next up is wallet creation. And this is another part of the standard, so it breaks out into different things within each section. So here is the breakout for wallet creation. And if you're creating wallets, this is one of the things that you should do. One of the things you should do is multiple keys for signing. And sometimes that could mean multi-signature. Multi-signature, how many of you have heard the term multi-signature? Okay, good. How many of you actually use multi-signature? Ah, crickets, very good. So everyone has heard of it, but no one uses it. Let me talk very quickly about multi-signature. Multi-signature in this application means that you require more than one key in order to transfer funds. Now, you can lock up funds in a number of different ways, and a lot of times people think multi-signature means multi-people, but it doesn't. You can actually have a hardware wallet like a Trezor, and a hardware wallet like a Ledger, and your phone, and that could be your multi-signature. You could have 2 out of 3 signatures required, so that if your phone ends up missing, or stolen, or broken, you can still recover your funds, but if someone steals your phone, they can't actually steal your Bitcoin. So there are a number of different really creative ways that you can use multi-signature, not only in institutions, but also individually. Also, it's very important that we have organizational distribution of keys. What does that mean? Well, that means exactly what we talked about a second ago with Quadriga, right? They didn't have organizational distribution of keys. They had one guy, supposedly with the keys stored on his laptop, for $150 million worth of client funds. That's crazy, you guys. But you know, the thing is if they had followed the CCSS, they would have had organizational distribution of keys, and we would not have ended up in the situation where clients have lost their funds. Next up, key usage. So here's something that people never seem to do, especially in startups. They start a company with their friends or people they meet, and then they don't actually do background checks. They don't actually do background checks because they feel like they know the people. And that's great. It's good to have trust. And what do we say in this industry? Don't trust, verify, right? And so it's great that you trust the people that you work with, and you definitely should. But if they're holding key material, if they're signing on behalf of your organization, if you guys are holding client funds, it's absolutely imperative that you do full background checks and make sure that this person isn't a con artist, or at least that they haven't been caught for being a con artist in the past. Also, you want to make sure that your spends are verified before signing. What does that mean? That means if I get an email request that says, oh, hey, Pamela, at Empowered Law, we have to pay this invoice really fast, like right now. Do I actually verify where did that request come from? Was my CTO's email hacked? Did it actually come from them? Is this an invoice that I actually should be paying, right? So instead of being reactive, we're responsive. We make sure that there are policies in place that we follow before signing off on transferring funds. This sounds so stupid, right, you guys? It seems so simple. Like, of course you're gonna have these things. No, you don't. In fact, BitPay found out the hard way when they got socially engineered for millions and thought that their insurance company was gonna cover it, and they did not. And the reason the insurance company didn't cover it was because they were like, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but they were like, hey dummy, you shouldn't have signed that transaction. That's not a computer hack, you got phished. And so BitPay was like, what? We thought we had insurance to cover this. If they had verification of spends before they actually spent it, that would not have happened. Key compromise policy. You guys, this is absolutely vital. And what a key compromise policy is it's simply asking the question, what happens if one of my keys is lost or stolen? What do we do as an organization? How do we survive that? And I think that key compromise policies are incredibly interesting. There's a lot of different ways that you can build them. There's a lot of different things that you can do to make sure that your key compromise policy works for you. But it's absolutely vital that you have one. Finally, key holder grant and revoke procedures. It's very important. Process matters. Process matters. And I am the first to say like, oh, lawyers and their process books. No. But if you have a process in place, it's how you can prevent getting phished. It's how you can prevent making mistakes. So processes do matter. You also want to make sure that you have audit logs, and you want to make sure that you have security audits. And what that means is you don't make security an afterthought. You bring security in on the front end. So, how can you contribute to this? Well, everyone in this room can contribute. These standards were created by industry experts. They're volunteer basis. If you're interested in participating or commenting or making a pull request, I encourage you to do so. You can do that on GitHub. You can also become a CCSS auditor. And for the first time, Crypto Consortium is giving an auditor status, meaning that you can take an exam and you can become an independent third-party auditor of these standards. The idea is basically you would go into a company, just like you would do with any other independent audit, and you would say, in addition to the other audits that I'm doing, I'm going to cover all of the CCSS, and I'm going to make sure that you're actually doing what you said you're doing. If you would like to become a CCSSA, but you feel like you need some training, there is a workshop that's happening in Denver, Colorado. The Crypto Consortium is actually putting on a full educational, blockchain educational conference. Every single session is education. No shills, no sponsors on stage. It's all education. Every single session has learning objectives. You will know what you're going to learn. There is an auditor workshop if you're interested in that. It's a 6-hour, 3-day workshop. It's an intensive. But then it also includes the cost of the exam for the CCSSA exam. Questions? No, you've answered them all. You can hear lunch. Is that what's happening? Thank you so much for coming today. Free resources are available on cryptoconsortium.org and then also at Empowered Law. Thank you so much.